Let's receive one deep breath together. Inhale. Just taking a moment for myself to just feel into everybody here in the space. I feel really blessed and grateful for your presence and very excited to just have this hour with you guys to talk about 5 skills that I believe every facilitator should develop um, in order to hold transformational spaces. Um, I say 5 skills because I really do believe that those are tools or those are ways that you can really nourish and cultivate. It's not so much about your nature, but it's much about appreciating the power of those tools. And if you agree, then to work on them, to embody them. And I do believe that they are absolutely fundamental to creating transformation. The reason I've started the series of masterclasses is I've noticed, like all of you probably, that breathwork has become extremely mainstream now, or at least it is becoming mainstream. There's a lot of people facilitating breathwork, and I do feel that it's rare enough for me to join, and I love joining sessions. I enjoy more being a student than a teacher. If I could have enough money to not teach, I would be very happy. I'm way happier to go from trainings to workshops and read my books. So if someone wants to adopt me and sponsor me, then I will retire from facilitating and we just enjoy learning because I really get the most from that. But it's rare that I join a space where I feel properly held, and I'm surprised by that. And sometimes I join sessions by extremely certified and advanced and recognized facilitators, and yet if I often reflect on my sessions feeling it didn't really work for me fully. And I really want this session tonight to highlight what I really believe are 5 skills that, when they are fully embodied, can really help create a vibration for transformation. I would say that the essence of transformation is when you are able to access the nervous system of the participants. So you're no longer trying to get them to understand, to realize, but the reprogramming happens at the level of the nervous system. So that should be the focus of any transformational spaces for me. It's not in the mind, and that's very often what people are used to because that's what they can control. But what I see often in particular is more and more uh, people excited to join sessions where they access their emotions. We live in a world where people are so suppressed and so repressed that the idea that being in a space where they can cry feels good enough. And they will then join these big cathartic events thinking, oh my God, it's amazing. Finally, a space where I can release, right? And I find that creates a little bit of just a consumer relation to those spaces as let's go and have a space, a cathartic space where I can release. And I guess it's a great place to start um, because it's better than just suppressing and avoiding and bypassing. So that's, but to be honest, activation is easy. Catharsis is easy. Intensity is easy. And facilitators should not necessarily pride themselves of that. What is not easy is sustainable change. What is not easy is to get people to create new neural pathways that they can have long lasting changes in their behaviors. That's what we can do in our spaces. That's what we should be focusing on. And that requires some internal skill set, not techniques, not tools. And often people are attached to, okay, what is the recipe? Show me the playlist. What kind of music do you play? What is the activation code? And they're attached to that. And it does work. And you have amazing DJs and amazing ways of creating these spaces where people can access their subconscious and their unconscious and have releases. So tonight is about those skills. It's about how I develop those skills. The first one is the concept of self-regulation. A lot of facilitators do not know how to self-regulate. And as a result, what they do in their sessions is co-regulate. So now they are using their audience, their participants, a little bit like a stand-up comedian, or like they are really seeking and longing for the reactions of their participants. And they come across more as takers than givers in their sessions. And let me be clear, if you cannot regulate yourself, you will try to control the room. And that's often what we see in sessions. Facilitators who are in control. So there's rigid structures, there's ways of a program that is set, and it doesn't work like that. Transformation doesn't happen in the masculine energy. Transformation happens in the feminine energy. Transformation happens when there is space, when the nervous system can relax, when participants can drop masks, shields, armors. And that will not happen if they follow someone else's agenda. I was there, and why I have this knowledge now, and I can share it with you, because I was exactly on the other side of all those skills. I came from a place which is often the case with facilitators of extremely deep wounds and traumas. And somehow I was seeking validation from my students. I was triggered when I was not getting these celebration words at the end of the sessions, when I was not getting the testimonials, where the tangible proof that I'm worthy was not manifested. I also many times avoided conflicts with my students. I create spaces where my participants are invited to be authentic. And very often I would go to the people pleaser. I would accept and I would make it okay. I just really want them to be happy. And if I have someone who's not happy in the space, well, how can I make them happy? How can I avoid conflict? Yeah. I would be very uncomfortable in spaces where there is awkward silence, and I would be always entertaining the space. I was noticing how when I facilitated, I was very much attached to the outcome. I wanted something to happen. I was seeking that cathartic release as a proof that I was cool, I was good, I was. So what I mean by that, it's interesting as a facilitator that you track what's going on for you when you facilitate, what's happening in the background. Yeah. And without judging yourself, without trying to feel you need to be any different, to develop that ability of having a very deep self-awareness. It could be your attraction to some participants and how you are with that. So just whatever is coming up, to have that ability to be in your own triggers and observe those triggers. If you are able to do that, if you are able to have a bit of distance from what's going on and able to observe yourself, then you will be able to not react anymore. You will not be able to go into control. You'll be able to slow down. This is a quality I'm looking for in a good facilitator. The mind goes fast. The nervous system likes to slow down. So what is the energy of a facilitator? Because we know, the mirroring brain is the most powerful way we can impact people, right? You're doing what I'm doing. So if I'm super slow, if I'm very centered, I'm also giving the space for your nervous system to do the same. If I'm controlling, if I'm fast, yes, that might be fun, entertaining, but you're not going to be in a down regulation of your nervous system. So learn to be okay with silence and learn to not be attached to outcomes. One of the first things I say in my trainings is, I'm going to make it very clear to you, I don't care what you think about me. I don't need you to admire me. I don't need you to judge me. Don't search for what I'm doing wrong. Don't try to figure out, is he in incongruence? Is he doing what he teaches? Is he an embodied facilitator? Because the mind will try to track that. It's like, is there someone that I can trust? And you have your idea of what it means. Okay, this is what I'm looking for in a teacher. I think it's an illusion. I think it's an excuse. And I think it's not realistic. So from the start, I really tell people that the exchange is very clear. You're paying me money. I'm delivering a training. That's all that's going on. There is no thing going on in the background. I don't want you to put me above you, and I'm not looking for any kind of validation. So please leave me alone. I'm a human. I'm very happily sharing my flows in my trainings. I own my shit, and I'm zero issues with bringing them up, because I do believe that when I do that, I give permissions to people to do the same. And what's happening in my sessions, which is quite mind-blowing for people, is very quickly they realize that I can share absolutely anything once they have integrated that they are there for themselves and not for me. They let go of the part that is judging, because the part that is judging is also a manager that is trying to not find an excuse for you to not be focusing on yourself. You'd rather look at, oh, I wouldn't do this, or I judge what he said, and that's not appropriate, and whatever it is that comes into play. Because, of course, I'm a human, and I have a conscious behavior, and I have unconscious behaviors. So you might be looking for my unconscious behaviors, which is also often what is going on in relationships. And by the way, everything I share when it comes to being an embodied facilitator is, of course, true for being just an embodied human. So this is parenting advice. This is relationship advice you can apply to sales in your relationship with clients. Relationship is relationship for me. So how do I do that? I'm constantly checking in and observing what's going on for me. And I'm tracking my thoughts, my sensations, my behaviors. Am I hiding in my phone when no one's looking? Am I checking? Am I disassociating and quickly going to check if I have a message? I'm not judging it, like, oh, it's bad to check my messages when I have clients in sessions. I'm observing the part of me that feels he needs to run away and is using his phone as an avoidance from what is going on. Yeah. So it's not about saying what is right and what is wrong anymore, because that doesn't work, but just genuinely observing myself, my thoughts, my behaviors, my sensations. And then observing whether I'm with my breath or not. Observing, because that's a really good symptom of dysregulation. If I'm with my breath, if I'm don't need to change my breath in order to regulate, that's a good sign that I'm pretty regulated. And I also have the cure with my breath. So if I observe that I'm not with my breath, that I'm in my thoughts, disassociating, whatever is going on, I can also bring myself back to the breath and down regulating, receiving a few breaths. And when I do that, I do something that I teach. I'm expanding my window of tolerance. I feel there is something that is not comfortable for me, but now I can stay with it. I can be with it. And I promise you, this is what's going to impress your students the most. You have no idea how much respect I've gained from my students when someone stands up and look at me in front of 20 people and says, Alex, I'm sorry, but I want to quit. I think you're full of shit. I don't feel safe with you. This is not what I want from a facilitator. And the room freezes. And maybe 2/3 of the room is judging her and supporting me and says, yeah, we see that you're going through something and there's nothing wrong with that way Alex facilitated. Or maybe 2/3 are feeling, oh, thank you. And thank God someone is speaking up, because this is absolutely not okay. Right? But in that moment, I can lose it, or I can actually see that as an incredible opportunity. And that's always what I do. I stay in the discomfort and I welcome the space of conflict. I welcome the truth of what the person is experiencing. And it's usually the most transformational moment of the training for that person. And that can be a 3-week training, and that happens on the day 2 and they want to quit and they say, I can't be with you. I don't think I want to learn from someone like you. And if they are able to navigate that, and if I can help them navigate that, that conversation can change their life. See, I'm not about pleasing my students. I'm not about trying to give a comfortable experience. I'm about giving them a space where whatever is to be expressed gets to be expressed. And I spend 3 weeks, 10 hours a day with people. So guess what? It's impossible to be in control and to be this superior, enlightened being that does everything right, you know? And that can be maybe because I scream to the dogs because they are pissing me off, because they are barking for the last 10 minutes and I'm just over it. And that triggers someone that says, I can't be with someone who's abusing animals. Fuck that shit. You know? So it doesn't have to be a big thing about me not being in integrity or something, right? It can be a moment of me having just reaction and that being a triggering moment. But the moment we're able to stay in connection in conflict is absolutely gold. People learn, for instance, in that moment that I can be authentic and I can belong. I can say I disagree with the authority and yet still be in connection. And that's extremely rare. Most people, they can't do that. They feel, well, if I cannot, I have to choose. Either I stay in this group and I accept the rules and the way it's done, even though I disagree with I don't know, The breaks are too short. The food is too spicy. It's too hot. It's too cold. It's not comfortable. Whatever is going on that feels, man, can I express that I don't like it, the decoration of this space? Can I express like I don't feel safe here? And, probably maybe be the only person triggered. But if I can receive that as a person being triggered without reacting and just being in the space and softening and receiving that, this is this is this is amazing. So try to uh, develop that skill of down regulating, of which means when you're in a relationship and someone says with a partner, with a girlfriend, with a boyfriend, you will be able to do the same. And if someone is getting into their shadows, into their 5-year-old, one of their parts is being activated using IFS language, then if you have the ability to notice that and to go into your self energy and to be present for that person, whatever they're going through, without you going into your reactive parts at the same time, then we're talking. Then we're creating a conscious partnership. And when the person is regulated, let's say me in my training, someone says, I absolutely, I give you an example. That was a few years ago. And it's often misunderstanding, but there was I was doing a demonstration, and it's been now 1 week that we are with the group, and I'm not getting any reaction from one of the participants. And finally, in her sessions, she's having a huge release as a result of things I had said, things I had done, the touch, but also the whole energy. And there are people watching, observing how I facilitate. Yeah. And the moment she has a release, I have this kind of reaction because I'm finally happy for her. I'm genuinely just happy for her. Right. But the way it was read by one of the participants is, oh, wow, he's having an ego trip and he's attached to the outcome and there's something going on for him that is absolutely not in integrity. How can he be celebrating this? This is not okay. And then he went to that student after and say, while you were breathing and doing this, this is what he did. And this is not okay. And they start building it up as a whole idea of how what was going on was not in integrity. And they both wanted to quit the training after that. So I helped them regulate and see their parts. But I also got triggered. I'm human. I also got triggered by this whole thing. I also felt that was not okay what was going on. So when everybody was regulated and they loved me and everybody was, I said, hey, hang on a minute. Now we've done half of the job. Now you got to take care of me now, because I'm also not okay with what just happened. And I need to have a space where I want to bring that up to you guys. And I had my moment of melting down, of crying, of feeling I let them down and I wish I da 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 da. And that was amazing for them to witness as well. So I was not just this guy who's got these skills and these tools and who can help them navigate it, but I also demonstrated that, okay, well, I'm also human and I've just been hurt right now. And doesn't have to do with anything. It's not blaming, it's not judging, it's just the reality of what's going on for me. But now we're no longer having a teacher-student relationship. We're really having a heart-to-heart connection. Now we are talking nervous system to nervous system. Now we're deepening the trust for each other. Right? Now we're building relationship. Because now they see that I can be present with myself and I can own that. And yes, I can regulate myself. And then I can also bring those vulnerable parts from a place of the self, not from a place of the wound, from the place of the self. The adult Alex says, you know what? I need a moment with you guys. And this is how we create a family. This is how we create trust in every container, with your children, with your partner, with your students. I have to go on because I realize it's 6:30 and it's only number one. Second, skill. learn to read nervous systems in real time. If you are self-centered only, if you're in control, if you're dysregulated, you will not be able to observe what's going on. I never share what we do in my sessions because I don't know what we're going to do. One of my rules is to follow aliveness. By following aliveness, I create a vibration of authenticity. But if I say we're going to have a 10 a.m. breath work and 11 a.m. we do circle, I can't do that. I've created expectations. So there is no agenda in my sessions. There is no expectations. People come and then literally we have no idea what's going to happen. Some days everybody's regulated. It's great. And I have a lot of tools and a lot of things that I want to share. My trainings are 3 weeks and 6 months online because I want space. Because that's all we need for transformation is space. So everything I do is about creating space, right? That also means not having a playlist in advance. Yesterday, I facilitated a session, but as I did the check-in, the energy was extremely different from what I had intended. And I completely changed everything from the activities to the music that we played. I just followed what was going on, what was real, what was present for them. What came up is the concept, what they were feeling is guilt. That was the topic. Okay? I fell into that, I received it, and then we went into that the theme, the choice of music and all. So following aliveness, what does it mean? It means my eyes are going sideways all the time. I have a radar for nervous system. And I observe everything people do without judging them. It's very hard for facilitators because we get annoyed by the student who cannot stop talking. We get annoyed with the one who is sneezing or burping. That's not okay. It's rude to burp, right? We're annoyed with the person who cannot sit on the chair, who is not making eye contact, who is not wanting to join the activities. My invitation is to drop any judgment and to observe like a doctor who is making an assessment and reading the symptoms of everybody. Your behavior, your attitude, the way you're dressed, but even your anatomy, your physiology is interesting to me. Your choice of clothes, your choice of tattoos, I'm observing. And I'm trying to have a bit of curiosity for what's going on, okay? And then I will be using a magic sentence that I use all the time when I want to have a bit more clarity on what's going on in the nervous system. Barbara, to take a random name that is in the room, you don't have to answer. This is just for the sake of the exercise. I'm curious to know what's going on for you. And I will do that with someone who's not talking, someone who's not making eye contact. I will just give them that opportunity to check in. I can do that with someone who is talking all the time and sharing their life stories for 30 years. I will invite them to pause or to slow down, to receive one breath. I will make eye contact with them. So I will interrupt their flow because I'm not interested in them talking fast. I know they're talking from the mind and memory, and that's boring. And I'm just going to say, hey, I'm curious. What's going on for you right now? And that is a proper skill to develop. Can I read a breathing pattern? Can I read if someone, then the breath is fast or shallow? Is it in the belly? Is it in the chest? what is the color of the skin of the person? How much tension do I feel in their muscular system? Right? Again, I'm reading nervous system. Are there are the eyes going in every direction, as if there were danger next to the fire and I'm protecting myself? Right? People who talk too much, people who don't talk, same symptoms. Something around what needs to be expressed, a desire to express something. And I'm also observing as I get to know people, like a poker player. I want to know their tell. So I have now my catalog of Jason. Okay, this is my idea about Jason. Spiros, this is what I know about Spiros. And now I'm tracking any changes from my story about that I know about you, how I read you. Because that tells me that there is a shift in your nervous system. Maybe you have a pair of aces, right? So that's the parallel with poker. That something is happening for you, or maybe you're bluffing and you're super stressed that I read your bluff, right? It's exactly what's happening when someone is triggered, when someone is in process. It is, there are tells, and I want to learn to read those tells. I can't do that if I'm self-centered only. I can't do that if I'm focused on the agenda. If I'm checking the time and I feel, oh my God, this is too long and da 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 da. Can't do that. I can only do that if I'm attuned, if I'm connected to felt sense. We are animals. We regulate nervous system to nervous system. When someone enters the room, we get affected. We know that. So be the receiver. I'm a receiver when I facilitate. That's when I say also I'm in my feminine. I'm in my receiver. Okay. I'm here. I'm listening. My radar is on. You don't want to play poker with me. Take your money. That's my poker mallet. Thursdays in Ubud if you come for the teacher training and play poker. Or werewolf. I play games. I love playing those games. Join me if you want. We play those games where you have to pretend to be someone else. I love spotting the werewolves amongst the villagers and these kind of games. Okay, so you need to adjust your tone. You need to adjust the intensity. You need to. This is how you keep spaces safe. This is how people talk about, and that's one big topic in breathwork, re-traumatization. How do I do not get re-traumatized in breathwork? This is how you do it, by having awareness of what's going on at the level of the nervous system of the person in real time. In real time. Transformation happens within the window of tolerance, on the edge of it. Can I teach and help people, my kids, my lovers, my students, same, expand their window of tolerance? That is what transformation is all about. Yeah? Can I be a little bit in the trigger? Can I sit with it without regulating? Can I just enjoy that? So one of the challenges that I mentioned at the beginning is this idea of cathartic releases. So for me, the next skill, the third skill to develop, is developing the ability to go extremely deep without re-traumatizing. Because what you see a lot in breath work is people who say, I choose the soft pace. I go slowly, honoring the rhythm of the nervous system, and I titrate maximum. I give a little bit. That's one approach. I really do believe, and I've experienced with like thousands of people in sessions and train hundreds of facilitators, that you can do both. You can go extremely deep. If there is a really sense of safety for people, depth is not a problem, right? But there need to be a level of trust that is extremely deep. There is a level of attunement that is extremely there, right? So that's where intensity doesn't mean transformation. So we stay within the tolerable window. That's the skill to develop. Can I have an awareness of the window of tolerance of that person and be with them within their window of tolerance? And that's really requires deep trust, deep connection, hence all the stuff that I share about myself, how human I am in my trainings and how authentic and vulnerable. I really want to create this intimacy, deep, deep, deep intimacy. Only from that place we can go deep, right? So what it looks like technically is titrating. That's a skill to learn, right? Titrating, to titrate means, when you do an experiment, you put a drop of something, like, and you see the result. And if you want another technical term, hormesis. Hormesis, if you have yeast and I put some detergent, some cleaning products, the yeast grows. So I expand the yeast if I put some chemicals that can kill it. But if I put too much, it's going to kill the yeast. So I need to learn and read the nervous system of the participants, each individually, so I can titrate with them. I can give them more resistance. I can give them more push, or I give them space to downregulate. What is needed? If I'm attuned, I will be able to learn to read that. In doubt, I will just play and then have an awareness after, and then we go deeper and we go deeper as we are progressing. That's why it's fantastic to be 3 weeks with someone or 6 months online, because you really get to know their nervous system. You get to know what is their edges, and you get to take them there safely. Yeah. Transformation is in the integration. We talked about that. We talked about that last week. Watch the recording. But I really want to pendulate, not the term, so that whatever is being expanded gets also integrated safely. The risk is that people get addicted just to the highs. They just want the dopamine, they want the oxytocin, they want the adrenaline, but they don't integrate. I spend more time in my trainings in integration than in anything else. Transformation happens in the circles, in the integration. Transformation happens when people leave the training, not in the training. What is being done after the training? Transformation happens when you go back home, when you're confronted to your triggers, not in the bubble with people who are trained to really take care of your nervous system. That's easy if you're a trauma-informed facilitator. What's not easy is when they go back to abusive relationships, to old patterns, to addictions. So pendulation is important because that's what I want people to take away from the trainings, is develop that sense of empowerment that, oh my God, I can go to those ages and I can integrate. I can create a safety for myself. At no point in the training, I want them to feel that their safety relies on me. I really care about them at every point feeling that they are in control of their own safety. So the empowerment side is absolutely essential for transformation. And that's a little bit the criticism I have of sometimes psychoanalysis, when you can spend 20 years and you feel the only person you can talk to is your therapist, and you just get attached to that special person where you have a very safe container just 1 hour per week. I think if we empower people with tools so they can pendulate, they can be on the edges of their nervous system, then we're talking. And here is the secret to transform, and that's what I want people to learn to slow down. That's what the nervous system likes. Slowing down. The thoughts. So that's why there is space, That's why I criticize often in breath work, because, and I criticize it, and I don't do it because of that reason, but it's impacting me in terms of work, because I get it. It's the game. If I wanted to be more successful, I should facilitate 2-hour sessions at Yoga Barn or in one of those places. I just don't believe in it. I just believe that we need space. And when I do a circle, there is no end time. There is space. I hate psychotherapy because I know that the therapist still has 5 minutes to go, and that freaks me out. I can't work like that. I cannot work on the clock. If something is alive, I want the person to feel safe. And for that, I demonstrate slowing down. So they register that. And in their approach to themselves, they also slow down. So when they are triggered, instead of running away, same strategy. Can I slow down? I have this 10-minute rule. Any trigger, agree that you're going to use one of your managers, but negotiation with yourself that you're going to wait 10 minutes before you do anything. You want a cigarette? Great. Wait 10 minutes and have the cigarette. Don't avoid the cigarette. Just negotiate 10 minutes with yourself. I have to continue, but that's the idea. Okay. Next on my list, transformation happens, and it's kind of things we've already said, but when you become a facilitator and you drop the teacher hat. Teachers don't transform, facilitators do. So observe when you are in your teacher and just check in. Why do you need to be in that teacher? Maybe it's a teacher training, and okay, now there is a 2-hour class, and that's okay. That's the game we are playing. I'm the teacher, you're the student. But that's in the container when we say now for 2 hours, Alex will share the theory of breathwork. Okay, teacher, student. But when I step out of my teacher role, I choose to step out consciously. So if people start talking about what's going on for them, I'm not going to take my teacher's hat who's going to fix them. I'm not going to say something smart that's going to feel, oh my God, he has so much wisdom on this topic. On, I don't know, codependency or suicide, whatever, physical, sexual abuse, all the things that are usual suspects. I do not share my opinion. I do not try to say something to come across like I'm helping, right? That would be not helpful. I don't try to explain. I'm not the authority. I drop all that. So in my interaction, I will be asking instead of telling. I will be bringing inquiry instead of judgment and diagnostic. I will also be okay with silence in those spaces. And my super skill that I use, and I think is probably the most powerful thing that happens in my trainings, is I open to the circle. So now I'm checking who's being impacted by who, and I create a kind of a dance and a flow among the participants. And I'm just saying, hey, you open to hearing impact that you're having. Okay, let's open up. And if I know that someone is triggered because they didn't make eye contact in the shares, I'm going to go and say, hey, I'm curious. Remember that? I'm curious. What's going on for you? You've heard it before and you know you've experienced it. Lessons need to be learned and they can't be taught. The most powerful lessons. I can tell you what's wrong with you. It's not going to work. You need to realize it by yourself. You need to come to that. That's the secret. We know that. We've experienced it over and over. Oh my God, I've been told that all my life. Yet I wasn't ready to hear that message. So I do believe that those circles are so powerful for people to appreciate different perspectives. I remember, I give you one quick example. A guy shared that he was suing his father because he had been physically abusing him when he was a kid. And he was angry and resentful to his dad and wanted him in prison, and there was no story around that. And then I asked if he was open for impact. And then I shared how I had, didn't happen, it happened only once, but my daughter wasn't eating, and I was triggered by that over and over from my own stories. And I lost it, and I grabbed her and I shook her, and what I shared basically is that in that moment I could relate to his dad, not to him. And the guy started crying like crazy because now he had a different perspective. He had another story that I'm right and the other person is wrong. And he could drop out of the, okay, this is it. I'm a victim and I'm going to be a victim all my life. And hearing the perspective of, the person who committed something that is not okay was, and receiving it from someone he really respected, and he had done many workshops with me and he really liked everything about me. But now he discovered something that was a big trigger, was a big no, right? So how could those two things be present for him at the same time? That he had deep respect for me and at the same time it was not okay what I did. Can those be real at the same time? So this idea of impact shares and opening to circles is so transformational. So transformational. And for that, I have to shut up. I have to withdraw. I have to stay the facilitator only. And if I share, like I just said in that example, I'm sharing like a participant. And I do share like a participant. People know me as much as they know each other in the training. And that's another criticism that I have of psychoanalysis, where it's all about the, the patient. And you don't know, you can, I did 10 years of therapy. I have zero idea about my, my therapist. I don't know anything about them. How can I feel safe? That doesn't make any sense to me, right? But instead, being just humans together, owning that people go through stuff, and that's okay. There's no one that is superior to everyone else. Can be quite, it's a quantum shift that happens for people. And yes, he reconnected with his dad. He was in prison, and he reconnected with that, and that's the healing part, right? When you can start taking radical responsibility and you move into something that I believe is the cure to cancer, forgiveness. Another masterclass on diseases, another time. Last skill, guiding integration in order to create long-lasting changes. Otherwise, you're just giving them their hits of adrenaline and dopamine, and they can leave feeling, wow, I feel good. But you don't create change like that. Changes don't happen in the aha moments. They happen in the integration of the aha moments. And that needs to be facilitated. Otherwise, listen carefully, the mind will always go for what is familiar. And if you don't create a new loop in the brain, if there is not a new habit, a new story that is being anchored, next opportunity, you will go back to the same and you will feel, oh my God, I know it, yet I cannot change. And I'm sure you can all relate to that. With you doing over and over the same things, knowing that it's bad for you, but you still cannot change. So, honoring that as a facilitator to create long lasting change, that, that is the secret of transformation. Because in the destabilization of the nervous system, you don't create change. You know, it's when the nervous system is regulated. Otherwise, they will go for the next high, the new girlfriend, the new $1,000,000, the new 1,000 followers. Yeah, that's the next thing that's gonna get me. Here we go. And of course, two ways to make someone unhappy: don't give them what they want, give them what they want. And billionaires are depressed, and movie stars are suicidal. Of course. Because if you do things unconsciously, trying to heal your childhood wounds with your mother and your father externally, it's not working. And we keep doing that. And we keep attracting the wrong people because we want to heal the relationship with our mother and father and hope the next partner is going to help us do that. And it doesn't work. Yet we go again. Basically, that's the definition of madness, according to Einstein: doing over and over the same thing, expecting a different outcome. So instead, when there is a peak state, can I slow down? The most powerful, the most important, powerful, essential part of my breathing sequence is the silence when everything is over. That's the most important part. It's not what I've said, it's not the quality of my sound system or the playlist. It's the quality of the space and the silence that follows. That's the most important part of a breathwork sequence. And you know that, you've heard it over and over. What's the most important pose in yoga? The only pose that matters in yoga is Shavasana. The rest is preparation for Shavasana. That's what asanas are. They all prepare you for that. They have no other purpose. Yet, most sessions, the silence is too quick. So, what we want is to get people to shift from aha moments and insights into new behaviors. That's transformational. What are the tangible changes that follow? That's what we want, not just the insights. That's why I spend so much time in circling after my sessions. And that's why I believe circling is the way we should be integrating breath work. Why? Because we need to name what happened. We need to make it conscious. We need to bring it to awareness and verbalize it and communicate about it and talk about it. And if there are 100 people in a room, I would put people in pods of 5 or 2 or 3, but get them to have a lot of time to actually express what was there. So if you do one-on-one, if you do groups, I really encourage you to create those spaces as well. It's not in the mind, it's in the body. So what does it look like if you were to embody those changes? Yeah. Those changes happen in the body, somatically. So when we finish the sessions, I give people practical steps. People leave my workshops with actionable tools to make those changes last. And I make it fun because gamification has proven to work. So I create a challenge, right? People love that. Humans, we like challenge. And I give them a reward. You know, all those things that we know work to create long lasting changes have been studied. They are out there. We know how to create habits. Repetition, reward, punishment, they work. You go to work because you get a promotion. But if you don't go to work, you get fired. That's why you need both. It's just the way we've been conditioned. All right. I'm beyond time. I don't like to do that. So those are the skills that create safety. Having awareness of the nervous system, working with the nervous system of people to create long-lasting changes. I will now open for questions, reactions. Know that it's recorded, so I will add you to the spotlight so you can be in the recording. And if you feel you have only 1 hour, you want to leave, apologize for being a bit late. You can leave, of course. Know that I facilitate those spaces in Bali in April and in August. I do it also in India in October, and I have a Global Practitioner Breathwork Alliance certification as well, GPBA. If you want to study with me online, we can do that as well with a part that is self-paced, and then a mentoring when I track your sessions and I support you for up to 2 years. So that's it for me. I'll put some links while you guys raise your hand and I can take some comments, reaction, questions, anything you guys want to ask is welcome, or criticize, or, you know, please tell me I'm full of shit. I don't mind. Anyone raise your hand electronically so I know who's there. What's there? Any reaction? No? Make sense? Did it land? Okay. Well, come on, guys. Give me one reaction. Don't leave me alone here. I cannot deal with the silence. What did I just teach you for 1 hour? All right. Ah, Alice, you're saving me. Bless your heart. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. No, thank you so much for the session. It was very interesting. I'm happy I came. Mm, um, what I'm really taking away is really allowing time and space and just slow people down, not jump to the next thing, which we tend to do, both as a facilitator and a participant in different spaces. Can you hear me well? Okay. Um, Something that I would like to circle back to eventually, I would like to delve into it a bit more, is that you said that in order to not create any expectations, you don't have a clear agenda for your sessions. So I would like to understand a bit more how that plays out in real life. So you have an intention for an outcome and then you free flow, or how does that work for you?
Well, I basically thank you for that. I've created a structure that works for my style. So we spend 10 hours a day for 3 weeks together. And yes, it's a teacher training, so there is an amount of knowledge that need to be passed on, but I don't pass it on in a structured way. Like, okay, today we do this at on this time. Like morning we do teaching, afternoon we do practice or something like that. I just we co-create. So it makes it really enjoyable. You arrive in the morning, we move, and then I feel it. I just feel what's happening, and then accordingly, I will I will come up with what we're doing in that moment. But I don't arrive in the morning with an idea of what we're going to be doing. And I give you an example. I do a morning practice. There is always 1 hour morning practice, 7:30 to 8:30. And then we have an hour and a half breakfast. And then we have the morning with some lectures or some facilitators coming or students demonstrating. And then at the end of this, and I was actually planning to do an ice bath that morning. And one girl couldn't stop breathing. She at the end, and it was a very soft, coherent breathing, but she went on to breathing for 3 hours out of the 10 minutes of breathing practice in the morning. So we moved out of the space. We cramped in a very small space. I kept always someone with her as she couldn't stop breathing. And she was breathing, and we were encouraging her to breathe. What she was going through is a rebirth, right? And that was the most transformational day of the life of everyone who was in the room. Because basically, they witnessed a human birth themselves. And that she shared her, so we welcome her back. She had a traumatic birth and very difficult relationship all her life with her mother and was impacted all her life. And that was her new, and it's not something I initiated, right? It's not something that I triggered with anything, right? It just that was her moment. And that's it. And it was disrupting of everything that we were doing, but that's it. So I could have try to get her to come back into what we're doing on and actually interrupt her process. But and it would have been okay. And she would not even have had that. She would have come out of it. And it has happened a few times. I've had that a couple of times, right? But then the whole day was about birth, the most traumatic experience we all have experienced in our life, right? And somehow I do believe that all we do is trying to go back to that beautiful space we were in before it all went to shit when we came to life. So everybody, that was the theme for the day, which is not part of my training, which is not something that I usually do. And then, because I learned to do that, I took her to the pool and I gave her a proper water rebirth session
Mm-hmm.
during the lunch. And everybody was crying around the pool as she was fighting with me, trying to come to life because it's a process. I don't let her out, and she has to fight me to come out, and it's very difficult. Like it's not easy. I was way stronger than her. It was a battle, and it was incredible. And we had the whole day of integration of that. And at the end, I tell you the truth. I don't care about teaching breathwork. I don't care about training breathwork facilitators. It's just an excuse for having what I call the lost art of being human, of getting people to actually get the tools that they've been craving to receive, to be just having a human experience. And
Mm-hmm.
that is not something that can be taught, but it can only be experienced. Yeah. And that's why I've transitioned to, and I've created this online teacher training where I have recorded, you know, it's a 400-hour process, videos in a structured way where I teach about everything classroom style, but I have an audience. It's a crazy amount of knowledge. This that you can receive in a way that everybody likes to usually get it in, like, okay, A, B, C, D, 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 in an order. So people can have both. They can have that experience and have the knowledge, right? Delivered in a way that they are used to receive it. Um, but if you read my testimonials, they don't really talk much about what they have learned in the training. They share that they don't have an autoimmune disease at the end of the training, that they have their first full body orgasm, that they are reconnecting to parts of themselves that they didn't even know they could have access. And yeah, but my problem is if I tell that to people, it's just maybe my limited belief, is I don't believe people would sign up for that. People pay for a skill, for something they can earn money with, or or anyway, that's where I'm at, with my business. But I would love to be the same way I told you I don't want to be teaching, I just want to be learning and going to sessions. Same, I would love to be in the spaces where I remove myself any kind of pressure in terms of time and what we need to do and what they need to live with. Because of course, in the background, I have a very strong masculine side that, and you live my training with knowledge, with knowing that you can do one-on-one and you can do groups and all that as well, right? But that's the part that I'm battling with a little bit. I would prefer to stay and flow only, you know? Thank you. All right, friends. Anything else before we close the day? Oh, everybody feels complete. Don't hesitate to reach out. You've got the links if you want to learn with me or join one of my experiments on life. We are doing this in end of April for 3 weeks. And then we're doing it in August. All right, my friends, sending you love. And we'll do in India with Melissa in October.